Have you ever wondered how players and owners agree to the terms that shape the very fabric of the NBA? The answer lies in the collective bargaining agreement, a critical contract that governs the league's operations, salaries, and overall structure. The crucial agreement, however, wasn't always in place. It took a landmark event, the 1964 NBA All-Star Game, where players took a bold stand to demand fair treatment, setting the stage for the CBA and transforming the NBA forever. On July 26, 2023, the NBPA and the NBA agreed on a new CBA that will run until the end of the 2029-30 season, ensuring that those rights are protected and enforced for owners, players, and staff alike. Players of today are taken care of with generational contracts, health and safety measures, access to world-class technologies, and almost every privilege you can have as a professional athlete. While this agreement is fundamental today, it hasn't always existed. It wasn't until legends of our past took a stand and demanded fair treatment that the foundation for the CBA was laid. Their courageous efforts not only transformed the NBA, but also set a precedent for all professional sports, ensuring that the fairness and justice are now cornerstones of the game. Since the NBA's inception in 1946, there has been a salary cap in place. At the time, the cap was $55,000, and most players earned between $4,000 and $5,000, with few exceptions from top performers. Many players had to work other jobs outside basketball to make ends meet. In terms of a CBA, this was non-existent at the time, and most, if not all, the control belonged to the owners. This control included creating rules for player salaries, dictating terms of employment, and making unilateral decisions without player input. Players had little leverage and no formal means to negotiate better terms or challenge unfair practices. The lack of a CBA meant that players had very little say in their employment terms. Owners could terminate contracts at their discretion, and players had no free agency rights. This situation led to a significant dissatisfaction among players who felt marginalized and exploited. In response to this, Boston Celtics superstar point guard Bob Cousy reached out to other top players across the league in hopes of encouraging solidarity among the league's best while creating change. All players except Andy Phillip responded positively to Cousy's call to action. Phillip, a top player for the Fort Wayne Pistons, wasn't allowed to participate as their owner Fred Zollner had blocked all participation from his team. Regardless, Cousy was able to create enough noise and took matters into his own hands by reaching out to NBA President Maurice Podolf with demands to take place effective immediately. This led to some back and forth, ultimately leading to a meeting that implemented such requests. These included the following, just to name a few: an increase of the playoff pool, elimination of exhibition games, player contracts being mailed at the proper times, appropriate time for player rests, elimination of certain back-to-backs, and many more as listed on the screen. Finally, some retribution was implemented for the league's hardworking talent, and Cousy's leadership was a step in the right direction. However, Cousy would later retire his position as NBPA president due to disagreements over pay on both sides. The successor was former Celtic Tom Heinsohn, and he and his contemporaries advocated for a more aggressive shift. Under Heinsohn's leadership, the owners agreed to the NBA's first pension program for retired players with at least 10 years of service. Progress was finally being made, but there was still much more work to be achieved. Over the next several years, little changed, and tension between players and owners quickly reached a boiling point. By 1962, players earned an average of $7,500, and almost all, including big names, worked summer jobs. They lacked job security and they lacked respect, said Jerry West. It was a stone age of basketball. Owners viewed players as dispensable assets, lucky to be playing a game for a living. Amid the rising civil rights movement, players like Bill Russell and Lenny Wilkens spoke out, seeking to showcase their voices on the biggest stage as internal negotiations stalled. This takes us to the 1964 NBA All-Star Game. With the league's top talent to square off, team owners on hand, and the NBA's largest audience to date tuning in on live television, the stage was set for a significant moment. The players saw this as their opportunity to demonstrate their worth and demand the respect and fair treatment they deserved. The game was to be televised on ABC, and there was an unspoken agreement between the owners and the network that more NBA coverage would be acquired if the game went well. Stakeholders from all sides had much to gain, with the possibility of establishing the NBA's legitimacy next to more established leagues like the MLB and NFL. Leading up to the game, there were several failed negotiations between the players' union and the owners. Led by Bill Russell, the union hinted potentially boycotting the game if no changes were made. However, this decision also risked the potential mainstream growth of all the league's players that could propel basketball players into stars. As the opening tip neared, there was a clear divide in the locker room. On one side, Russell, Wilkins, and Heinsohn were adamant that none of the players should take the court until the demands were met. On the other side, players like Wilt Chamberlain, easily the NBA's biggest star, wanted to play for the cameras. This left the players with no choice other than to vote on the issue. The anticipation was at an all-time high in the ensuing moments. As the players decided on the fate of what could be the biggest moment for the sport, the results were in. In a slim 11-9 majority, the rule ended in favor of the strike. And so the players remained in the locker room, sending a few others to the owner's suites. The demands were simple. Players wanted job security, full-time trainers, and the NBA wanted to reduce the number of exhibition games and back-to-backs. The owners did not take this well, cursing out the players and demanding they step on the court. In particular, Lakers owner Bob Short tried entering the players' locker room and cursed out superstars Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. He threatened that, unless they took the court, they would never see a Lakers jersey again. West and Baylor stood their ground, remaining in solidarity. Meanwhile, ABC executives were furious and gave the league 20 minutes to start playing, or else they would never host NBA content again. With the threat looming, the owners had no choice but to give in to the players' demands. The union was officially recognized and all the players' demands had been met. Most importantly, the Players Association earned a seat at the table for all future negotiations. The players had won, and the game continued. While the CBA wasn't officially formed until the 1980s, the 1964 All-Star Game was the crucial turning point the league needed to get there. Today, TV rights are the vessel that empowers the billion-dollar industry, a vessel that would not be possible without the legends of the past standing up for what's right and forcing the owners' hands. Today, the CBA ensures that players are protected and their rights are upheld, thanks to the brave actions of the legends that came before us. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories from the world of the NBA.
The Most Valuable Player Award went to Oscar Robertson of the Cincinnati Royals, thus winding up the 14th annual NBA East-West All-Star.
With NBA Commissioner Walter Kennedy at his side, Robertson receives the Most Valuable Player Award, the second time in 4 years.